Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we will be working on the Z32 or R32, R33 front calipers as far as this is concerned, since they are very similar. I recently acquired some used, which most of the time they are, used calipers, and a lot of people that I know will buy these calipers, say, hey, they're stronger, they're better, which they are, but then they'll throw them right on their car, not understanding that this part can be up to 20 years old, and those seals can be cracked, and the actual brake caliper that they're thinking is gonna upgrade their vehicle can actually cause more harm to their vehicle if it doesn't actually work. In this video, we're gonna dive into taking it apart, replacing all the seals, cleaning up the pots, or replacing them if need be. For me, I don't like to leave things just completely untouched, so of course I'm gonna be painting them as well, which you can powder coat. I ended up using a engine or a caliper paint that can resist the high temps that the brake caliper will reach. So before we start, I wanted to preface that the parts that I'm gonna put in the description below are for the Z32 or 300ZX 90 to 96 calipers. They may differ on your application, so make sure to double check that first. All right, enough of me talking, let's dive right into it. So first things first, you always want to make sure your calipers are nice and clean before disassembling them. I actually started cleaning this before the recording, and I kind of messed up and realized that I need to, get this on film, obviously. But I went over it with some engine degreaser and a wire brush just to get off the extra gunk. And now that the caliper is completely clean and free of debris, you can go ahead and remove the C-clips that, or the retaining clips, sorry, that hold the dust boot in place. And you want to take those out. And then from there, you should be able to pry the actual dust boot off of the pots. Now, be very careful. This is the part where you want to be, if you are wanting to reuse your caliper pots, you want to make sure not to press too hard and damage the sides of those pots. But in this part right here, it's the part that protrudes out of the caliper, so it's not as important, but still want to kind of, make sure you're taking your time and not scratching anything up that you shouldn't be. All right, so the trick here, obviously, is using compressed air to get these pots to come out. Now, the problem is you want them to come out evenly, because if one comes out completely, these three will not come out, because obviously the seal will be open, and so any air shot through here is going to come out this big, where the pot was originally. So the object here is to get these guys to come out evenly. And the easiest way to do that is to take your old brake pads, and we're gonna kind of slowly and progressively get these pots out, and I'll show you what we're gonna do here. So once you get, I'm gonna start with 3 of them. 4 is kind of overkill just because you won't really have much space. I have like this wooden dowel here where I'm just gonna back it out about this much right here. So if you look, there's just enough space for this side to come out about 1/4 of an inch. So we're gonna do that side first. Take the compressed air here. And you'll see that come out here. So you might have to, okay, so this side's going. We're gonna keep this here. There we go. So we got that side. Both of these are even now. So now that we have that side, we'll want to do, we'll keep that in here and make sure it's nice and in there, and then also make sure that, oh, I didn't even take the boot out of this one. Let's take the boot out. So now what we want to do Let's get this back in here. Make sure that it is not in the way of the piston coming out. And then we're gonna go ahead and now start applying air again. So now these won't have anywhere to go. You know, these will actually be forced to come out. So I'm gonna turn the air compressor on again. Let's get that in here. And you'll see these pots come out. All right, so if you look, now these ones are pretty much out about the same distance as these guys. So now we're gonna remove one of these from here. There we go. And let's put this one back. So now we're gonna have enough to come out here. So I'm just gonna do this on this side. So if you look, I turned it from this side to the long side here, just so that way now there's gonna be some space for this to come out on this side. All right, so if you look, this pot's out. Now what I wanna do, and this is kinda stuck in there now. So if you look, this pot is almost completely out. And the best way to get this off is to take these and then just hit this brake pad down like that. So once these are out this far, technically you can pull these apart, and if you gently and carefully take some pliers to the rim of this, so obviously not touching the actual the outer piston, obviously not touching the outer part of this piston, because this is where it creates that seal. Right here where it actually comes in contact with the pad, you can get a rag between this and just gently twist them out. So for example, like this one, it's a little bit further in, just because you can see this is how much before it hits the seal right here. So right there. So this is obviously, I would go a little bit more on this one, just to be sure that I'm not forcing this out. So we're gonna go a little bit more. Just like that. And that should be good. All right, so next part is taking out these. These are 14mm bolts. Preferably, I'd recommend using an impact gun, just because it does make life a lot easier, but if you don't have that, you can remove this with a breaker bar. So I'm gonna go ahead and go. And once these are all out, it should come apart fairly easy. Right here, if you notice, you're gonna have your O-rings here. You're gonna also have, we removed the dust boots already, and then inside I'm gonna show you here, and actually I could probably show you in this one. There will be a seal in here that we're gonna remove. Now this is the one you have to be very careful with, because you don't wanna score anything on the actual housing of this piston. So yeah, because that's where you need a tight seal, so you don't want anything rubbing against that. So I'm gonna dump the brake fluid out. And this is what I was talking about, removing these pots, and you wanna make sure you're not touching anything on this outer piston wall. Right here it's okay, because this is the part that comes in contact with your brake pad. But still, you wanna make sure you're not scoring that. Using a rag, and again, making sure you're only going on that outer lip. You can grab that, twist a little bit, and she should come out nice and easy. This one's a little bit harder. Yep, so if you look, slight twist, and again, I'm just getting that outer lip. And this definitely needed to be rebuilt, because these are very stiff. And as you can see, the calipers are painted in a high temp black, which I forgot to start recording, so you'll notice that that footage is kind of missing. But I noticed also that when you do shoot with casting parts or inconsistent colors on a part such as these calipers, putting that black base layer, it works just as well as when you're painting anything else and having a base, like a primer base coat layer. The colors come out evenly and I think a little more vibrant and strong. So I went ahead and went with gold on these calipers. I've done red a lot, and I thought maybe gold would complement the color of my car. So while you're waiting for that beautiful paint to dry, it gives you some time to inspect all of your caliper pots, make sure there's no scoring or marks. The only time you'll usually see that is if you do purchase some brakes where the seal failed and the actual pot was rubbing up against the caliper wall. So in that case, you just want to obviously inspect the current pots that can be used, and if you need to replace them, you can purchase these brand new at your auto parts store. Mine all came out pretty nice. None of them had any kind of scoring on them. After using this Scotch-Brite pad and scuffing up all the rust that was on them, they pretty much look brand new. So if you look, I'm using just a standard auto body Scotch-Brite to remove any of the imperfections on the actual pot. So using this and some engine cleaner, that should help as well. So you have the option of purchasing brand new hardware. In my case, I just went ahead and put these into a container of white vinegar overnight, and it does a great job of cleaning up those bolts. It does remove the factory coating, so you can spray these with like a galvanized coating or zinc coating, just so that way they are rust protected. So once your paint is dry and you're ready to put the calipers back together, just make sure to get all your parts together. If you look, these are the part numbers for the rebuild kit that I will be using. They do come with everything as far as the dust boots, the retaining clips, basically everything you need to get these brand spanking new. If you look, I am pouring some brake fluid into a little container so that you can lubricate the seals before putting them in, which is super important just to make sure that they do create that seal when you start using them. So this is one of those parts you want to use extreme caution. You want to make sure to pull these old seals out, and again, making sure that you are being precise and not scoring up the side of the actual piston wall. So if you look, I'm just slowly getting these old seals out. So once your old seal is out, give a generous coating of brake fluid to your new seal, and there is a groove that it will sit on or sit in, so there is no mistaking where that's supposed to go, and it will sit nice and flush in there. Make sure also in this step not to get any brake fluid on your fresh coat of paint, because it will smudge it. So once you have your seals in place, the next step is to put your dust cover or dust boot on the actual pots prior to actually pushing this in. And the reason why is once these pistons are in the caliper, it makes it almost impossible to put these dust covers on correctly. They do have a groove to go into, and I ended up doing it completely wrong and putting the pots in first and not being able to get those dust covers on. So learn from a mistake, put the dust boot on first, and then press the actual pistons into the caliper. Once the dust covers are on, you can install your retaining clip, and there is a goob for that as well. Just be careful as far as it binding. As you notice down there, you'll see some of the rubber kind of pushing out. So what you want to do is release some tension from that spring, and then you can push the boot in a little bit. And the last seal to go in is the O-ring in between both the halves of the caliper. If you notice, there will be two, one on each side. And same thing, make sure that you don't have excess brake fluid all running down the paint, because again, it will smudge your paint, which it did a little bit on mine. And once you've put it together, torqued everything down, you're ready to install into your vehicle. In my instance, I like to go that step further, and I went ahead and grabbed some of my model paint that I had, acrylic model paint, and outlined the actual Nissan logo on the calipers, and then I put a fresh coat of clear on top of that to encapsulate that white paint. Alright you guys, so that concludes this video. If there was anything I didn't get to cover in this tutorial, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll answer it as soon as I see it. And also if you have any recommendations of things you want to see in the future videos. But as always, thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one. Later.